The 1920s can easily be described as a time of paradox. Within 10 years, the economy went from the roaring 20s to ending in the Great Depression, with the stock market crash of 1929 acting as the inflection point. Beginning in the 1920s, after America got out of a short recession post the Great War, the economy skyrocketed. With gains in foreign trade and industrial growth, prices decreased and spending increased. People became very materialistic and began buying more material-based goods, satisfying luxurious wants rather than needs. For example, Babe Ruth was purchased by the Red Sox for $125,000, being the largest sum anyone has ever paid for a player. To put into perspective how much this would cost today, $125,000 would equal $1,479,000, which goes to show the excess amount of wealth in the time period. Also, domestication of products and industry made America prosper. With wealthy individuals, entrepreneurship was practiced more often, and local business brought jobs and prosperity. But with every boom comes a bust in the world of business. Prior to the crash in May of 1928 to September of 1929, stocks rose 40%. Share trades were increasing from 2 to 3 million a day to an average of 5 million a day, sometimes even reaching 10 to 12 million. But in late October, the 21st through the 23rd, stock prices suddenly plummeted. This was mainly because European nations began expanding their own industries, and Germany couldn't afford investing in U.S. goods after the war. So nearly all of U.S.'s foreign investors pulled out. After prices plummeted on October 29th, also known as Black Tuesday, over 16 million shares were traded back into the market, causing the collapse. J.P. Morgan then bought huge amounts of stock to try and boost public confidence in the market, but despite his efforts, the market completely crashed. Because of the wealth in the 1920s, many people invested their entire life savings into stock markets, causing many to lose everything they owned in the crash. Many small businesses failed and unemployment rose. The U.S. economy was in need of help, and to make matters worse, Germany quit paying their war debts, causing more hardship in the U.S. With the stock market taking nearly a decade to recover, the crash was the beginning of the Great Depression. The Great Depression then lasted from 1929 to 1939. With Wall Street in a panic and thousands of investors wiped out, America was in economic turmoil. Over the next several years, consumer spending and investments dropped. On top of this, unemployment rose by over 25%. But America was not the only economy forced into depression by the crash. The Wall Street crash is now used as an example of just how hard a world economy can crash. Between 1929 and 1932, gross domestic product fell by 15% worldwide, and international trade plummeted by an astounding 50%. Industry nationwide was in a recession because the U.S. had essentially become an economic powerhouse. Even crop prices decreased 60%. Because of all this, American ways needed to change. People went from mansions to doubling up in apartments, and people were now forced to watch their spending. They could no longer focus on their materialistic wants when they could hardly focus on their basic needs or even feeding their children. With efforts of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the effect of the crash was lessened in the 1930s, but the Great Depression would not fully come to a conclusion until 1939, when the American industry kicked into high gear to accommodate the needs of the Second World War. In all, the crash of the stock market in 1929 shocked the world, quickly destroyed the U.S. economy, and the final effects were greater and more costly than the world could have predicted.